Hello, hello, hello. The world is a stage, and we're all actors with parts to play. I'd like to tell you my story. There was a man and a wife and their son, and they lived in normal United Kingdom in a house, obviously. And one day, the man had a slight breathing problem, and as the day progressed, the breathing problem got slightly worse, and it got worse, and it got worse until he was really struggling to breathe. That wasn't how he breathed, it was just me trying to calm my nerves down. But what happened after that was, it got so bad that the mom said to the son, call the ambulance. And the son said, it's fine, it happens all the time, we'll call the ambulance. And in a day or two, he'll go to the hospital, and he'll come back, everything's fine. And then a tear swelled in the woman's eye, and all of a sudden, she became very pale. She struggled to hold the man with her arms, and she said, he's not breathing, son, do something. The son, while on the phone to the ambulance, said, help, I need help. And so they said, you need to get him out of the bath, and you need to put him down, and you need to do CPR. Those three letters have never meant the same since, CPR. And within 10 minutes, he was down, and he was running to his neighbor's house, and every footstep felt like a mountain he had to climb, and every raindrop felt like a tsunami in his way, and he got to the neighbor's house, and he knocked ever so quietly. Knock, knock. And they opened. They've never seen him before. He's moved into this area, and he's never visited their house once. And the first thing he says to them is, it's my dad. And they rush to the house, and within 10 minutes, he's performing CPR on his DAD. And then after another 10 minutes, the ambulance arrives, and as he holds his mom saying, it's okay, he finds relief because he knows that his sisters are going to come. And ever since he was young, he always believed that sisters equals everything will be okay. But not this time. Everything wasn't okay. He was dead, finished. Within a week, he was in a lecture theatre studying about calculus. That was my story. There are thousands of them out there. Approximately 25% of students will lose a loved one within their university career. And yet we can't talk about death. We can't talk about death. And it makes me wonder because it makes me wonder how someone would feel, because I live at home. How would someone feel who is thousands of miles away from everything they've ever known, and they get a phone call saying a loved one is dead? Dead. I don't say passed away, I say dead, finished. Because Facebook can't give you a hug. And a Twitter follower may say, I'm here, but he's not here. He's there. He's following you. And it's funny. I find it very funny because we give advice. We give so much advice to kids about when they're going to university. You know, think about loneliness, about flatmate advice, about course development, about relationship advice. And it's like a bank of advice that we can withdraw every time we meet one of these demons. But lurking in the shadows of these demons is one unmentioned. Rarely do we ever mention the Grim Reaper. And rarely do we ever talk about how to deal with death and how to help people who deal with death. 25% of students will lose a loved one within their university career. This isn't just my story. This is our story. 1/4. And you may think, okay, yeah, death, you know, it's hard at the time, and it's very hard. But let's talk about the future as well, because it's the future that terrifies me. It's the future that makes me shiver, because it's the future. We are the future. Studies have shown that death will significantly, dealing with bereavement would significantly increase your chances of having anxiety or depression in later life. If you don't deal with the grief while you're at university, your chances of getting anxiety or depression later in life are significantly higher. It's linked with alcohol abuse, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. This is what we are dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. Because imagine a middle-aged man, he graduates, he's fine, he gets a job, he gets married, and all of a sudden everything's good in life, everything's fine. And one morning he wakes up. One morning he wakes up and he finds an uneasy feeling in his heart, and he doesn't know where it's from. And all of a sudden he's starting to lose interest in the things that gave him joy for so many years. And the scariest part of that story is he wouldn't even know what it's about. Because the time when he was meant to be grieving, he was working. And the time when he was meant to be crying, he was being strong. Don't be strong. That's stupid advice. Be weak. Grieve. It's okay. I want to talk about this mixing part that students have to deal with that goes forgotten in everyday life. You know, we mentioned the elderly, we mentioned so many populations at risk, but we never mentioned students for some reason. Let's talk about loneliness, flatmate advice, relationship issues. Let's put this all in a mixing pot, and let's add death into it as well. Don't you think they already have so much on their plate? And you expect them to deal with everything that they are thrown at them because they are now adults. They are now adults, so they can deal with it. But no one can deal with it without the proper support. And I want to talk about why this is such an issue in today's society. Because nobody wants to be the kid that's known to have problems. Nobody wants to stand out like a sore thumb, stick out like a sore thumb. Nobody wants to do that. And the fact is that the 25% of people approximately who are dealing with death and the 75% of people not dealing with death all of a sudden have nothing in common. There is an invisible line drawn between them that breaks their understanding because the 75% of people have never experienced it, and it's not their fault. The only way you can learn about something is if you experience it or if you're taught about it. 25% of the population of university students have experienced it. The other 75%, no matter how good their intentions are, they can't help because they just don't know how to react to such a thing. How do you react to death if you've never faced death before, or no one's ever told you that there is a chance that you could go to university and one of your friends could look you flat bang in the eye and say, "My dad is dead." And that's the problem. It brings me on to my second issue, that the other 25% of people think they're alone. When my dad passed away, I thought I was the only one. 25% of university students will lose a loved one within their university career. I wasn't the only one. So let's talk about solutions. It's been pretty morbid so far. So what are the solutions that we have to deal with this topic? And I'm going to be very honest with you as I stand here. I don't have a solution. I don't have a solution. But I know that the first steps to finding the solution is identifying the problem. And we have a problem. We as a university body cannot deal with death. I know that it's not okay for a university student, a girl who's lost both her grandmothers and her uncle in the space of 6 months, to go up to a professor and the first thing for the professor to say is, "How many grandmas do you have?" I know that's not okay, and I know it's not okay for people who want to help but don't know how to help, and I know it's not okay for people who need help to not know where to go. I don't have any solutions, but I can offer you my advice. To the 75% of people out there, you can't go wrong with being kind, and you can't go wrong with being considerate. And I get that you may not know what I'm going through, but I thank you for your kindness and your consideration. More importantly, however, for those 25% of students, approximately, who deal with death while dealing with all the other crap that university life has to throw at you, you're not alone. You're not alone. And even though it may seem you're alone, even though it may seem that you can't find anyone, keep walking, and I promise you, you will find someone. You are not alone. And if you can, be brave. Be honest about how you feel, because if you don't say how you feel, no one will ever know. No one will ever know. And honesty begets honesty. So I'd like to talk about how I'm feeling, first of all. At this very moment, I'm very sad. I'm very sad, and sometimes I can get quite angry for no reason. And sometimes it may seem like I'm annoyed at you, but I'm not. And sometimes I miss a lot of lectures because I can't really concentrate on matrices or probability when I'm thinking about matrices as in another life that I could live, and a probability, the only probability I'm thinking about is death right now. And I'm scared because I don't know when this feeling will go. I don't know when it will cease. I don't know when I can feel the joys of happiness again. But most of all, I am hopeful in this position because I know that although 25% of people, university students, may deal with death, and although 75% of people may not understand, I know that 100% of people one day in their life will have to deal with death. So why don't we deal with it as a family, as a unit, as a 100% body of university students and professors and lecturers and everyone else linked with you? And that's me being honest. And one final thing that I have to say is that appreciate the people who don't understand, because it may seem like they don't care or they don't get it, and it's true, they don't get it. How can someone get something they've never been through or they've never been taught? Because although many people won't understand, every single person cares, and that's all that matters. The world is our stage, and we are all actors with parts to play. But one day, we must all exit stage left.